Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a very famous Tag Heuer watch, and this one has a lot of issue. We see when we put it on a time grapher. Just now I'm checking if the watch is working, and you see I'm winding the watch and the watch is not starting straight away. Yeah, I just have to tap on it and yeah, that's it. The watch just starts. Yeah, that's not a good news. There is definitely something wrong in it. The watch needs a service, and that's what we're gonna do in this video. We're gonna fully disassemble this watch, see what's inside, and get a good service on this very classic Tag Heuer watch. Just checking now. Is the date is jumping at midnight. See if that is working. Yeah, fine, that's working. We have a screw down crown. We have the bezel there, which is rotating freely, so that's good. Obviously, we're gonna fully clean the case as well. Just checking there, and you see when I put it on a time grapher, look at the result. It's very strange. Like the watch just stopped, and it's making, yeah, the time grapher is making strange noise, and yes, there is actually no reading. Like it's so weird. Like the watch is running, but very, very, very badly. So you see, when I'm gonna disassemble this watch, we will check everything inside. Now I'm just gonna open the case back, and here is a automatic movement. You see we have a rotor here that I'm turning, just checking the bearing. You see here if it's not too much play, and it looks good. I'm just gonna take out first the movement out of the case by just removing this screw there. And you see the movement is beating, yeah, so the watch is running, but very, very, very badly, yeah. So sometimes you just need a service because, yeah, a lot of dried up oil, grease or dirt came into the watch and makes this watch, yeah, not running very well. Just removing the winding stem here. There we go. Just gonna flip it over and that's it. We have the movement out of the case with this dial and the hands. The hand looks weird as well. The loom on the hand, to me, doesn't look original. The owner of the watch wanted to keep this loom, but I'm not sure if it's fully original or if it was redone, because yeah, it's not the same color as our indicator, so not sure. Just releasing the dial there, you see we have two clips here, which is keeping the dial in position. And now I should be able to lift the dial with my carbon tweezer tips there, not to make sure I don't scratch anything. Perfect. And again, we're gonna just put it in its box just to make sure it's safely stored away. And we can start the disassembly. Just removing the hour wheel there, and gonna disassemble each part of this ETA movement. You can see that's an ETA movement. Obviously, when you work on watches, you recognize that we can see the sign under the balance wheel there, as the ETA with the ETA number movement. Just going to remove like this big rotor on top there for the winding mechanism. And we have two black screws, which are normally blue, but yeah, they look black on this watch, which are the two screws for the winding mechanism there that I can remove. There we go. We disassemble this a bit later. Just gonna try to remove the power from the watch, which is very tricky, like with this click here, just to keep the click in position. No, not there. Yeah, there we go. Now I can remove the power, which is stored inside the mainspring, where we have all the power stored when you wind the watch manually or the automatic way. Gonna remove now the balance because yeah, this is very fragile, so just wanna remove it first just to make sure I don't damage the very tiny hairspring. The movement is quite clean. You see there at the bottom 2824-2, that's a number from for the ETA, the ETA model. So obviously at this period, this watch is probably from, I would say, early 2000, end of the 90s. It's a very famous design from Tag Heuer. I think they sold a lot of these watches. And Tag Heuer at the time, and I think today they make their own caliber, but at the time they used a lot of like caliber from factory and brands like ETA that make only caliber. So yeah, there is a lot of ETA caliber in Tag Heuer, and that's why at the time they were like, yeah, a bit cheaper watch if you want, because they were not using in-house caliber. They were using ETA, which are really good calibers actually. This ETA, and if you work on watches like on calibers, I recommend to work on this ETA if you want to start and train, because you will find a lot of parts like for this ETA caliber, because they were obviously mass produced, and the parts, first you can find them easily. That's the first point, because sometimes, for example, on Rolex calibers it will be very difficult to find some parts if you are not certified by Rolex. And yeah, the parts are a lot cheaper as well compared to other calibers. Like for example, if you work on Rolex again, on Omega or other calibers, like yeah, they will be a lot cheaper, because yeah, they were produced as well in mass, and you can find them like more easily. So yeah, if you want to start work on calibers and try to find a watch to work on it, just try to find an ETA caliber. It's very simple, very easy to find parts if you have something broken, or if you do a mistake and you break something. That's my recommendation for you. Just removing the train of wheel now, you see. And so far nothing wrong on the movement. Like I cannot see anything bad. Like actually the movement is quite clean. I don't see anything broken on the parts, like checking the pivot points on the wheel. If anything is wear down or broken, nothing. Still few parts to check, but we'll see when we disassemble the barrel assembly a bit later on, if we see if nothing wrong with the mainspring. I'm removing all the parts from the keyless work and the calendar mechanism. There we go. Just remove like that the wheel for the quick set date, if you want to change the date quickly. Still a couple of parts there for the calendar. And you see on this side as well, the movement is looking quite clean, nothing bad. That's a spring for the jump, like where the date is jumping around midnight. And now I'll just disassemble the keyless work, which is very common on these ETA calibers, like this range of caliber from ETA is always the same type of keyless work. And you see all the parts that are piling up on a bench, and obviously we'll put all these parts in a cleaning machine later on. Again, just to make sure we remove all the dried up oil, grease, and we have like brand new and shiny parts again to put back on a watch later on. Just gonna take out like the shock spring you see here with the jewels inside from the balance assembly. Again, just to make sure we clean them properly before we will oil them back when we reassemble the watch. Pegging the jewels, again, to release or detach any dried up oil or grease on the main plate and all the jewels from the watch. Placing back the balance on the main plate there, just to keep it safe during cleaning. And again, I'm gonna remove the joule on the top part of the balance. We did the other side. Now we're gonna do the top side. Well, okay, so just check. Now we're gonna check inside the barrel arbor if we have inside the barrel. Sorry, if we have something wrong. Just opening the lid there. And checking inside. Doesn't looks dirty obviously because it's an automatic winding, so we have some graphite grease, but doesn't look bad, yeah. Just removing the barrel arbor here. Just removing the mainspring. Oh, yeah, it just slid out of my hand. Like, yeah, obviously the barrel, we find the rest of the barrel, but yeah, nothing wrong there. And gonna disassemble now. That's the automatic bridge with all the wheels underneath. The reversing wheel, obviously, to wind the mechanism if the rotor is turning in both directions. That's a kind of the two copper color wheels there. That's a reversing wheel. That's the first one and the second one. Just gonna clean the pivot point there, nice polish with some E-flex. Just gonna do that on all the wheels from the train of wheel. And now each part is gonna go in small baskets, and they will go inside a cleaning machine just to make sure again they're fully clean, no more oil, grease on it, dirt, before we put them back together, back on the caliber. Okay, so for the cleaning, we will do this in few stages. The first one, we're gonna put the parts in a rinsing solution where we're gonna remove again all the dirt from the parts. And when it's done, we're gonna place them back in two stages where we're gonna rinse the part to remove like this product, like the cleaning product, and we will finish by drying the parts. I would like to use this opportunity to tell you that I have a Patreon page, and I would like to thank my existing patron. So if you want to go and support the channel, you can find the link down below in the description, and you can subscribe to one of the plans, and that will help me a lot to support this channel. So thanks in advance. And if you did not subscribe to the channel, again, you can click on the subscribe button. I put a video once a week, so you can click on the bell icon to get a reminder. And if you like the video, click on the thumbs up. That will help a lot to promote the channel and share the love on all these watches with other watch lovers. So what I'm gonna do now, now that the parts are fully clean, the first step is I'm gonna do an epilame treatment on some of the parts. So this will help to retain the oil in a better spot. And when the parts are treated, gonna dry them now. So we just treated now the escape, the pallet fork, and all the jewels for the balance assembly. Just gonna dry them very gently. Just gonna remove like the epilame from the pivot point of the escape wheel and the pallet fork, because we don't need epilame on this part of these parts. And now I'm gonna put a drop of oil, 90-10, so it's a very thin oil on the jewel, on the center of the jewel there, just putting a drop of oil, and gonna put the chaton back on top. I just slip there, just put the chaton back on top. Just try to turn the jewel there if you want to turn. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's it. And we can see the drop of oil right in the center. So that's perfectly what we want. Just do the same thing on the other one. Just put a drop of 90-10. Again, a very thin oil when we lubricate the balance wheel. and a chaton back on top, and the drop of oil is captured inside. So we're gonna place back now the jewels that we just oiled. We just need to open the mainspring, which is always tricky to do under a camera. And you can see there is a balance staff from the balance wheel, which is coming out there. And actually this is gonna go right in the center of the jewels that we just oiled. And basically it's gonna be lubricated with the oil, the drop of oil that we just put there. And now I'm just closing the spring here. Just gonna do the same thing on the other side. And we have a balance which will be fully clean, fully oiled, and ready to go back on the caliber at the end. There we go, just placing the jewel here on the balance staff. And now I'm just gonna close the spring. Perfect. Just gonna check, obviously, like always when I clean and oil the balance, if it's running well. So just gonna blow some air on it just to make it turn, see if there is any friction. Yeah, that looks good. The air spring looks good as well. Just checking if it's fully flat. Yeah, fully flat and very concentric. There is no shocks on the mainspring, no deformation of the mainspring, the air spring, sorry. And I'm just remove now the balance wheel. So gonna keep it and store it away, because we're gonna place back the balance wheel more or less at the end when the movement, when all the parts of the movement are there. So here we go, just store it, and I'm gonna reassemble the barrel assembly, which is, you see, nice and clean there. So I'm just putting some graphite grease on the wall, because being an automatic watch, obviously it's always winding when it's an automatic watch. It never stops winding. It's not like a manual. If you have a manual watch, you will see you will wind your watch, and at one point it becomes hard, and that's why you need to stop winding, because you have a stop on the mainspring. On an automatic watch, you don't have a stop. It's always winding, and it's like always turning on the outside of this barrel. So that's why you put some graphite grease there, just to make sure it's nicely lubricated, but there is still some friction to retain the mainspring. And you see this V shape at the end that will come and rub against the barrel wall where we put the graphite grease. So now we just rewind the mainspring with this Bergeron winder. And we should have a mainspring fully formed inside and ready to go back inside the barrel assembly. Yeah, here we go. You can see the mainspring there. So now what we're gonna do, just gonna place back and push the mainspring inside the barrel. Perfect. Just gonna grease the top lid there for the mainspring to be fully lubricated. And I'm gonna close the barrel assembly. Okay, I'm just gonna use this tool from Morotech, where I'm gonna press on it, and that's it. The barrel is closed. Just gonna check the end shake, and actually it was very tight, the end shake. So just gonna push on it just to give it some extra room and have a free mainspring inside and free barrel arbor. And I'm just gonna oil there. You see this pivot point with my automatic oiler, putting this red oil, a 9104, which is like a thicker oil that we just use on a balance. And now I'm just gonna start to put back the train of wheel. Just gonna use the barrel that we just assembled and oiled. And I'm placing back the rest of the wheel, you see, on the pivot point, which is the red ruby that you see. I'm aligning, you see, the the pivot. I'm just oiling there the center pivot of the center wheel. And when all the wheels are in position, I'm just gonna put the bridge on top. And again, we just need to make sure everything is aligned in the ruby there. Just gonna align. Generally, I like to tap a tiny bit like you see, just to make sure the wheels are falling and vibrating and falling into the ruby. And up, you see, it's aligned straight away. Just press on it and all the wheels are aligned. They are turning freely. So that's good. So we can secure the bridge by putting the 2 screws. That's a hack. So that's why we'll stop and come in contact with the balance wheel. When you pull on the crown, it will stop the second running on the second hand. And I'll put a barrel bridge. Again, easier to align this one because there is only one big part to align, which is a barrel arbor here. And when it's done, we can secure that with the screws, obviously, as always. And you see the movement was quite clean, but now after cleaning in a cleaning machine, it looks very nice. And this ETA movement as well, you see, it's like very simple in terms of decoration. There is no perlage and there is no Côte de Genève, there is no anglage on the parts. Obviously, yeah, like I said, they were like mass produced. There is different level of finish on this movement, but like this one is very simple. And obviously less decoration. The cost is lower as well. So yeah, that's why even in this Tag Heuer watch, they were not like cheap watch. Yeah, they are not like cheap watch. But yeah, again, the movement inside, nothing fancy. It's a great movement. Like I said, this ATA movement, they are very robust. Obviously, mass produced. So yeah, there is a lot of parts that were made. So yeah, like again, if you have something which is mass produced, generally the quality and the stuff is quite high, because if there was any mistakes, they will have catch it straight away. But yeah, again, they're very simple, nothing very fancy compared to other calibers, like you can see on other watch. For example, if I take a Gégère caliber, which will be like generally for the price quite a lot of nice decoration on a caliber. But yeah, these ones are very simple. Just placing the ratchet wheel there, and now that everything is assembled on top there, I'm just gonna oil, you see all the jewels there from the train of wheel, putting different oil, different jewels. Just gonna do the same thing obviously on the dial side, which is the other side now. And you see there we have a ruby for the barrel arbor, which was not the case on the other side. Just greasing there, you see the crown, the winding pinion here with some heavy grease. So like yeah, that's high viscosity grease, because yeah, we'll see a lot of tension between the part there, a lot of friction. So that's why we're gonna use this blue grease like on a keyless work. Placing the clutch here. And greasing again with this blue grease the winding stem. So I'm going to insert there through the parts. Perfect. Gonna use my automatic oiler just to oil a couple of pivot points. And again, a keyless work on this ETA is not really standard. You see, you have these parts here where we'll have the wheel there that will move later on to connect to different wheels depending on what you do on a keyless work. Like if you want to wind the watch, set the time, or do the quick save date. Again, you will see me greasing all the parts here. Greasing the center of the clutch. where we put the yoke there, right in the center. And we put these parts that come on top, which is actually quite clever because you will have this part is doing few things, like you will have the yoke spring, you will have the setting lever spring on top of it, and yeah, everything on one part with one screw here. That's quite nice. So now I'm just gonna set this spring actually. First there is a yoke spring, and actually there I'm doing a mistake. You will see a bit later on by setting this spring. And now I'm just gonna set the setting lever spring here. Just gonna grease everything again just to make sure it's move nicely and smoothly and the parts don't wear. And actually when I pull on a part, like you see the clutch is not really moving, or it's moving not as supposed to be, like, and I just remove like the parts, and actually you will see the yoke spring. I just put it on the top part of the yoke, and it should be going under the yoke. You will see there. I'm just gonna put it back, so I'm putting back the parts there, and you see it need to go there underneath and not on top of it. And now when I pull on it, yeah, everything is moving nicely. The clutch is moving nicely, so yeah, that's fine. So it's very important, you see, to check once in a while. You will have a few checks in a watch to make sure everything is working nicely. Obviously, like on a yoke, on this part of the watch, you want to pull on the crown and check if everything is working nicely. And if you see something weird, you just need to stop, take a second, and see if you did anything wrong, and put it back together before obviously you finish a watch completely. And when the watch is fully finished, you find out that the time is not setting correctly, or if something else is wrong. So that's why you want to have some quick check once in a while. Just aligning, you see there's a pallet fork in the jewel. Yeah, there we go. Now you see the pivot point is aligned in the jewel. I can press it down, can secure it with the screws. Just gonna wind the watch, and again, a quick check there will be to check if the pallet fork is clicking. After winding the watch. And if it's clicking, we can put, and we'll oil as well. I always oil the pallet fork outside of the camera because it's quite tricky to do, to oil the pallet fork jewels. And now we're gonna put the balance. And the movement, when we put the balance in place, the movement should start. Just gonna move the pallet fork and see, make it click there. Tack, the other side. That's easier to insert the balance. You have to move it like anti-clockwise to give it a quarter of a turn to insert the impulse jewel underneath. And when I put it fully in place, hopefully the movement is gonna start there just now, very gently. Looks like it's in position. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Just need to press it down because it's not fully aligned. Yeah, that's it. Now it's fully aligned. Perfect. We have a movement which is running, so that's a good news. And obviously you remember at the beginning it was not running very well. So we'll see a bit later on a time grapher which type of result we are getting. Just gonna oil there all the pivot point where we're gonna put the rest of the keyless work and the calendar mechanism. So now the movement is running. That's what I like to do, is first get the movement running, and after you will add a complication on the watch, which are in this case the calendar mechanism, which are assembling right now, and the winding mechanism, the automatic winding mechanism. Placing the date disc here. See, very gently I'm gonna just move it and arm the spring. There's the jumper, the date jumper. There we go. Just release it. You see in between the teeth there of the date wheel. Just place this part, you see, with the wheel which connect the wheel to the calendar and driving the calendar mechanism. And now I can put the hour wheel back on top. There we're gonna put the wheel for the quick side date. We see we have like 3 positions on the crown. We have a winding, a quick side date, and to set the time. I'm gonna place this bridge. You see, we will keep this quick side date wheel in position by pressing down on top of it, like a spring if you want, and keeping the date disc in position as well. And you see the quick side date there is working fine. And now just changing the time and see if the date is changing and jumping. Yeah, perfectly. So we can put this ring around. Just make sure that for the dial to rest on it, just need to align. You see this kind of hole there where we have the hole to put the dial fits through. And now we're going to just place back this dial, which is in very nice condition actually. Just closing, you see, remember, like the kind of hooks which are keeping the dial in position. Just giving it a quick clean there. And again, just making the date jump. It's coming there. There we go. And when the date is jumping, it's midnight. So it means we're going to set the hour hand at midnight. Gonna press it in place there with my tool for setting the watch hands. Just gonna turn it around and press on it. This actually was not a lot of room, like it was very close to the dial, the hour hand, and to the Tag Heuer logo you see there. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna align the minute hand to midnight. Just press it in position. And just gonna check now if the date is jumping. I like to have it around 10, minus 10, plus 10 minutes around midnight. Yeah, that's good, perfect. And the last hand, which is a second hand. Just gonna place it in position. Here we go. Nice, nicely pressed. And we're gonna check now if the hands are touching. No, it's fine. And now you see, I just push on the crown and the watch is starting. Perfect. Now we're gonna reassemble the automatic winding system. And first, I'm just gonna do a treatment with some Lubetta on the reversing wheel. So that's to lubricate the reversing wheel. I'm just gonna dry them now, obviously, first. And like we said, this reversing wheel will allow the movement to be wind in both directions. If the rotor is turning clockwise or anti-clockwise, obviously it's much more efficient if you wind a watch when it's turning in both directions, not only one direction. So that's the purpose of this reversing wheel. Doesn't matter in which way the rotor is going to turn, it's always going to wind the mainspring in one direction. There we go, now it's fully dry. Should be able to reassemble these parts and put like this sub-assembly if you want back on the watch. So you have this bridge you see with the jewels. Now getting closer to this bridge. And now we place all the wheels back on his movement. Lubricating the pivot point here. Where you see this wheel is gonna come on this pivot point here. And we have the last one, last wheel. make the connection you see between this wheel and the reversing wheel, and the bridge on top with the jewel where we're gonna align the rest of the pivot point. See, very gently there. There we go, perfect. It's in position. We can secure it with the screw. And like we did on a train of wheel, all the jewels need to be lubricated, again, to run freely and to remove any friction and make sure the parts don't wear, because obviously the part wear too much, yeah, it can cause a lot of troubles on the watch. Gonna do a quick cleaning on the case in my ultrasonic machine, and actually I have a discount code if you want to buy this cleaning machine. I will put a link down below in the description. So we clean the bracelet, and everything actually was not that dirty, and you see when I put it inside it was not a lot of dirt coming out. And now I'm just gonna put a brand new gasket on the watch, again just to make sure it's fully watertight. Just put some silicone grease around this joint, and gonna place it back on the case. Just gonna blow some air just to remove any dust before we place back the case on the dial. There we go. Just gonna turn it around. Just make sure it's fully sitting inside the case, and we can insert the crown, the winding stem here. Perfect. We have this ring around that will come and make the caliber nice and centered. It will not move inside the case. We just need to insert in and press on it. And obviously after we'll have the two screws. Again, that will keep everything nice and tight inside the case. Perfect. Just gonna adjust, you see, the balance, so the beat error and the rate of the watch. This is to adjust the rate, and we can fine tuning, you see, with this screw, because you see the watch is not running very well. The rate and the beat error is not good, so the aim is to have a beat error around 0 and the rate as well, again around 0. So we'll see now I will speed it up, and by moving the parts that I just showed you on a balance wheel, first I like to adjust the beat error, to have the beat error at 0, close to 0. And now you see I will adjust the rate to have a flat line. And you see the amplitude is around 270. And now I adjust it like not very finely, because what I'm going to do now, I'm going to finish first to reassemble the watch. Going to stop the movement there by pulling on the crown to place the winding mechanism. And on an automatic watch, and any watch actually, I like to let it run for a couple of days. So this one I put it on a winder to let it run for a couple of days, and after we will finally adjust it very nicely and very smoothly, like to have a very precise reading. But first you need to let it run for a couple of days for the oil and grease and all the parts to settle in. So now I'm putting the automatic bridge in position, putting the big rotor there for the winding system. I'm oiling the ball bearing here. And I will just place back the case back. We can close the watch. I'm going to use my Orotech, my custom tool from Orotech, which is very nice to open and close watches. So if you want to buy this tool, actually you can buy. I will put a link down below where you can find the link for the custom page of Orotech, where you can buy all these beautiful tools. They are so nice. They look nice as well, even on a bench or I don't know if you have a place where you collect and store your watches. It looks nice, and if you want to open your watch, that's the tool that you need. And you see I put the watch on a winder and will turn for a couple of days to check first if the watch is running well, the winding system is working, the date is jumping, the timekeeping is good. And again, like I said, to make the oil settle in and for the watch to run before we adjust it fully. And again, before we check and we can readjust it fully, I'm gonna demagnetize the watch. I would like to tell you that I have my own website. You can find the link down below in the description, or I put a link on the top right corner there, where you can go and find some of the watch that I'm selling online, some of the watch that I restored on the channel. So if you want to buy some of my watches, or if you want to send your watch for a service, like for example this Tag Heuer, you can go there, contact me, and I will be very happy to work on your watch and restore or service your watch. And you see there after a couple of days, the amplitude went even higher, above 300. And with the final adjustment, we have a beat error perfectly at 0 and a rate which is right around 0 plus minus 1 second, which is really, really good on his watches. So very happy with the result, with the amplitude, with the rate, with the beat error. So this watch will run for many years now until the next service. So I hope you like this video, and I see you next time for my next watches. Bye bye!
Thank you.